It's relevant to this discussion we're having now because you and I have discussed before the Australian Workforce Teacher Data Report released by the Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership. It showed that nearly half the nation's maths... Now, parents, I'm pleading with you. You've got to understand this. Nearly half the nation's maths... This was a survey of 18,000 teachers. Not a piddling news poll survey, 18,000 teachers. It showed that nearly half the nation's maths and foreign language teachers are not qualified to teach the subject. Half. So my view as children are sitting in a classroom and the maths teacher or the German teacher may not be qualified to teach the subject. Mark, surely that is educational betrayal.
Yeah, and the same problem in science. The out-of-field teaching, as it's known, is a huge problem where you haven't got the properly qualified teacher in front of a classroom of high school students with the qualifications to impart the right kind of instruction. So the answer, because we studied this in the Education Committee that I chair in the Upper House, is a series of $20,000 scholarships to ensure that a maths teacher in front of a maths class has actually got maths qualifications, same in languages, same in science, and other areas. So
that presupposes the maths teacher is in front of the class, which is another issue you've been raising in the Parliament. I mean, the notion about the teacher in front of the class actually teaching and being the centre of authority, I mean, that's also down the drain. I mean, in this survey, this data, 46% of teachers, 18,000 surveyed, are teaching subjects in which they have no special skill, 46%. A quarter of the maths teachers said they had no training in maths. 20% of the science teachers, no training in science. And Mark, we're spending $120 billion a year as a nation on what's called quote unquote education. How the hell do you turn this around?
Well, you've got to go to the evidence. One of the paradoxes in school education policy is that it's all been studied all over the world inside out. We know exactly, Alan, what works in the classroom and what doesn't work. But teachers, for political and other reasons, get off on experiments and fads. And you mentioned teaching in front of the classroom. We know for sure that direct instruction, the teacher standing at the front of the classroom imparting knowledge and a rich interchange of ideas and concepts with their students, the teacher teaching is the best way of the students learning. But there's a fad where students are said to be self-starting learners. They can sit in a little group and get it all off the internet while the teacher walks around as a facilitator with a cup of coffee, just dropping into the group by group to give them a few little tips. Well, I always say, look, if students are self-starting learners and they can get it off the internet, why do we need schools?
Absolutely.
They can sit at home and get it off the internet. Yeah. Teachers have got to teach. And one truism in the education system, if the students aren't learning, the teachers aren't teaching and not teaching the right way.
Correct.
So going to the evidence base, our One Nation policy, Alan, is to bring back the school inspectors to certify in each and every classroom and give parents a guarantee that direct instruction's being used according to the evidence, phonics in literacy, behavioural standards are high, there's data measurement, there's testing, and there's all the things that actually work in the classroom instead of the totally random approach we've got at the moment under the Perrottet government.
Brilliant.